Today on the Rise of the Challenge podcast.
The thread in my career has always been serving people to some degree or another. And not that because I did that, my career is better than someone else's, not at all. It's just that's what's tugged on me. Whereas other people, they pursue a different path that really tugs on them. And so when I've deviated, it's never fit. So I don't know why, but it just really hasn't fit.
Welcome to the Rise of the Challenge podcast. Joined today, he's the creator of the Blue Shirt Leadership, coach, analyst, and author. It's Kyle Gillette. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm good, Alex. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it quite a bit.
We're so excited to have you on the show to talk about your rise to the challenge. What we like to do with all of our guests is go right to the beginning. Talk about where you're from and what you like doing growing up.
Yeah, I was a hooper. So I was a hooper and I rode my bike a lot, although I am not tall. So, I didn't go anywhere with basketball, but did that quite a bit. Drove quads and had a lot of fun doing that. My upbringing is on an orange farm, the Central Valley of California. So I got the experience of that and had a lot of fun doing that world, worked for my dad, and then jumped into kinesiology or exercise science, which put me into personal training, but then it moved me into a nonprofit world. So just kind of a wide variety of experience until jumped into this career.
Growing up with basketball and writing, two different kind of atmospheres, extreme and kind of the team aspect. Was there one that specifically you preferred over the other?
Yeah, then I really preferred basketball. It was probably 5 to 7 days a week. I was definitely shooting hoops and hours and hours by myself in addition to playing with friends. So yeah, definitely the preference then. Now I think I lean a little bit more towards mountain biking because there's a mountain out here that's just amazing for that. So I lean a little bit more that direction.
Did you have a specific athlete or a team that you were frowned upon and you kind of looked up to or towards?
I did not like Michael Jordan. I'll put it that way. I rooted against the Bulls because they would always win, although they have the best intro music like in the history of sport. That song is just, even though I was a Michael Jordan hater at the time, that song is still pretty sick. So yeah, I was not a Bulls fan. I grew up a 49ers fan, though. I know that's not basketball, but 49ers fan until this year. I was a little disappointed with what happened. But otherwise, yeah, I didn't really idolize any particular athlete. I think Kobe became kind of a big deal to me at a certain point, but otherwise, I didn't really appreciate until I got older the massive talent in addition to the massive effort that those athletes have and still have. So they get paid quite a bit,
Yeah.
but they do the work. Most of them do the work. So
One of the things you brought up was the music aspect. And I think a lot of people listening can relate is you play those video games and it's like, okay, that arena and what the atmosphere is like, what's the music playing. And I think that is what hooked me on to some songs that like you listen, you're like, I'm a fan of this. Like, why doesn't our team do something like this? Because like I'm in St. Louis, so the Blues, everyone knows the power play song and exactly what it is. So it's like you can go to any stadium and you know that signature song because you see everyone's doing a movement, everyone knows it's about to play, and that just makes it fun as a fan to go to those games. And
yep.
You talked about not being a Michael Jordan fan, but the Bulls had something that still caught your eye in a way that's
100%
to them.
Yeah, well, I went to a couple USC games when I was going to college. I didn't go to USC, but it was close enough and there's friends and whatnot. And they had the White Stripes song and I can't do it. But anyway, there's a specific song that I remember. But the song that hit me real hard recently was the 007 timeout or the 007 pause menu song.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? That video game?
Yeah.
Man, that song, I had it. I like tried to download it and I wanted it to be my ringer and all this kind of stuff because nostalgia, man. But that's, it's not sport, but still it was pretty cool.
With mountain biking, did you ever fear injuries or were any extreme when it came to that? Or were you very careful when riding out there?
As a kid, no. Now, I'm in my 40s, so I'm a little bit more cautious. I try to keep both wheels on the ground most of the time. So I'm pretty cautious now. I think that with mountain biking and a lot of these more quote unquote extreme sports, it's either like you're all in and you do everything all the way and you're
Yeah.
crazy and you do crazy things, or you're not. Or at least that's what you see, is that all in craziness. But when you actually get out there and start riding with people, there's much more nuance to it, where most people aren't that extreme and aren't that talented to be able to do that. And so it's intimidating at first, though, when you try to do a sport like this, because everybody looks like they can hit 20-foot jumps and do backflips and all this stuff, when in reality, there are people that can for sure, and they're out here. But a majority of the people, they just want to go ride and get some exercise and hit a little jump here and there and have some fun. So, fortunately, there's a crowd that I can lean into. I'm not the extreme guy in that regard, that's for sure.
Sometimes we're asked that fun question, what's that dream job? When you're growing up, what was that dream job? Because you kind of talked about a little bit of what path you took, but what was that certain job that you wanted?
I thought it was going to be physical therapy of all careers. I thought that's what it was going to be. I didn't want to become a farmer. I think I was 17 when I had this kind of blow up situation with my dad and working in the summer, and I just went, "Ugh, not for me." And so ended up pivoting towards exercise science and physical therapy. And then I thought, oh, maybe it's personal training. So I actually ran a business for a little bit in personal training, and that was great. But I didn't really have a dream job. I didn't want to be that firefighter or policeman or that kind of thing that some kids have.
With personal training, did you enjoy the fitness aspects or what really about personal training kind of put you into that field?
Yeah, I've always helped people. I've always wanted to serve people in their self, like who they are as a person. And so personal training definitely did that, obviously on the physical and health side of things. So that was a big deal for me. And I did a lot of sports in high school. And so I wanted to continue that trend and might as well get paid for it.
Mhm.
So that's what it became for me. But in the long run, the thread in my career has always been serving people to some degree or another. And not that because I did that, my career is better than someone else's, not at all. It's just that's what's tugged on me. Whereas other people, they pursue a different path that really tugs on them. And so when I've deviated, it's never fit. So I don't know why, but it just really hasn't fit.
You talked about owning or running the business. Did it ever get challenging in any way? Like, was there a specific area that you weren't comfortable doing compared to other parts of the business?
At first, it was doing group classes where I had to be in front of everybody and teach. I remember, I don't know if I could tell you the exact first time I did it, but I remember some of the first times having to teach in front of multiple people and do the exercises and show them what to do. And it just, man, it was uncomfortable to be on display, if you will, like that. But otherwise, I really enjoyed everything about it, and then got real comfortable with that too and started to enjoy the group classes as well.
Do you feel that that group atmosphere, the teaching helped you maybe in other areas currently with speaking in front of people, being a like trainer, or if you're teaching people certain topics and things like that? Do you feel that kind of helped you grow to be able to be more confident in those areas?
I think I was able to look back at that and go, that was helpful. But the reality is, I don't know if you've ever done the networking events where you have to share your elevator pitch and you tell everybody, hey, this is what I do. When I first started this business, I needed to do that to introduce myself. And I would like heart beating,
Oh,
hands shaking on Zoom. I was nervous about doing it, and don't even talk to me about in person. It was horrible. Like I was so nervous, throat would get dry. For it was bad. And so until that was just about 3 years ago that I like finally moved on from that fear, and then I started to take on public speaking, and now I really enjoy public speaking. And I get nervous a tiny bit, but it's a trained thing. It's a practiced thing, and so now I'm more comfortable and I enjoy it and look forward to it for the most part.
What was the path after the personal training? What was the next direction you went through?
Yeah, so there's actually something before the personal training. I kind of skipped around a bit, but when I was graduating college, I was out of, I was not doing college right at the end of school because I was behind in units. I didn't realize it. And I was really afraid to become an adult because at that time I was still kind of just school and having fun with friends and all that world. But within 3 months, I'd be wrapping up. And at that time, I remember sitting at my desk and I was talking to my parents on the phone about becoming an adult and like being afraid of this and not knowing what I was going to do. I was going to become a personal trainer and all this stuff. And I was 40 pounds overweight. I was, I think, 9 units behind in school and just not in a good place in my head or my heart or anything. And I had gone on a trip to India prior to that on spring break, and my friend who went on the trip as well called me up and said there's this open position at a men's mentoring program. And I went and interviewed, but it was for the job, not to live there. And I'm thinking in my head, I need to live here because
Mhm.
I need the mentoring. I don't need to be mentoring someone. I need someone to help me. But long story short, I took the job and ended up working there for 9.5 years.
Wow.
So it ended up being multiple different roles from running the business that they ran to support the program to running the program altogether. But in the midst of all of that, I took some time off and I ran the personal training business for a year and a half. It overlapped a little bit. So I had this kind of dynamic experience of living in this men's mentoring program, then helping to run it while also doing the personal training business. So that was kind of the path until I moved up to the Pacific Northwest with my family.
For those 9.5 years, what was it the biggest thing it taught you having that experience?
Judgment is not where I should land. So these guys came in, they're 18 to 25 years old, and they were struggling with drugs and alcohol and broken families and just brokenness in general as men. And they were typically kind of behind in life because they didn't have the support that I fortunately had or other people that I know had.
Mhm.
And when I within like the first 2 weeks, I recognized how judgmental I was to other people. And it's not gone away because I don't have it figured out, but it went away significantly. But that was one of the biggest lessons for me was just that the attitude that I had about other people and where I stood and the comparison traps and all that kind of stuff. So that quickly shifted for me because I went, wait, I'm here to help these guys. I'm not better than them. I'm here to help them and encourage them and support them. And so that really was a catalyst to what I do now, ultimately.
I wish a lot of people took that same advice nowadays, where we see people comparing or thinking they're better than someone. And it's like, if we all just supported each other and helped each other out, the world could be so much better. But we're like trying to battle over who has like the best, I'm just gonna use a random song out there. It's like, let's just support both songs at this point. Like, and especially with the people that you are working with, it's like they have gone through so much, but they just want someone to be in their corner. And that's what their goal was. You talked about judgment was a big thing that you learned. And I think that is something that a lot of people today should be not doing, because I think anytime we get people are comparing each other, you see it with social media, that you see the fitness industry comparing each other, and you see like the people in media comparing each other. And it's just, if we were all supporting each other, the place would be a lot better. People would feel more confident and feel open to be able to share even more. With that, you talked about after that experience, you headed to the Pacific Northwest. What was the biggest thing you were wanting to accomplish moving up there, especially you mentioned being with family?
Yeah, I would say, well, first of all, let me share a quick story and then I'll tell you about the the move. So I was driving, where was I driving to? I think I was just going to a networking event or something. And in front of me was this SUV. And the SUV is just a white, I think it was a Honda, white Honda SUV, and it had probably a half a dozen stickers on it. And they were going to get on the freeway and I was going to get on the freeway, and I'm driving behind them and they're doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. And I realized that every single sticker on their car was something that I didn't agree with. It was
Oh,
like, for me, I'm like, that's not my perspective. That's not my view. That's not the way I would see things. And then I was sitting in the car as they're driving, and I'm going, you know what? But I would love to just sit with them and ask, so why is it that you have this here? What is your perspective on this? Why is this important that you have it on your car? What does that mean to you? And I would do it in a way that wasn't about me correcting them or them correcting me or me thinking that I've got it figured out. I would just be curious. And I think that that's what is really often missing for people in the judgment part, is just there's no curiosity.
mhm.
There's just, I've got it right, you've got it wrong. And there are definitely things in my life that I think I've got it right and some people got it wrong. It's true. But if I'm in a conversation with somebody, the way I project that's going to be different, because I want to respect them and hear what they have to say. I may never agree with them, but that doesn't mean I can't be curious and learn about them.
Mhm.
So that's a little bit of a side note, but it was really just fascinating seeing that. And I've had those conversations before. I've had clients that are really polar opposite of me in my perspectives, and that's fine. And I could still do a great job of helping them. It's just, you got to kind of quickly navigate that and realize that that's not what this is about anyway. So, curiosity. They say curiosity killed the cat, but I think curiosity really ultimately is very, very helpful. um, to answer your question though about the Pacific Northwest, we moved up here mostly because my wife's family was up here, or is up here, and that just drew us up here. And I didn't have a job in mind. I didn't have anything lined up at all. My wife was a nurse at the time. She's since quit so she can help me out with the business, but it was easy for her to get a job. And so I actually applied to 90 jobs the first 4 months I was here and got 2 interviews. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I was 2014, and then I got a job, and it was a terrible job for 6 months. So it was an assistant director at a senior living place, and I learned a bit, but the corporate people were terrible. The people I worked with directly were fine; they were great in most cases. And then I quit that job because I just couldn't. It was the first time I ever quit a job, also in that way at least. And then 50 job applications later, I got another interview, or no, 2 interviews, and I didn't want the one. They didn't want me, and I didn't want them on one of the jobs, which was a retail job. And then I ended up working in HR. So it you never know where life's going to take you, but ultimately that HR introduced me to coaching, which then I started my own business from there.
During this time with the different positions you've had, did you able to separate like the professional life and the personal life and be able to enjoy both for the time being, especially now where you are today? Are you able to kind of have both impacted?
I would say that it's a seasonal thing. So if the business is financially going up significantly, then when it balances pretty easy. If the business is kind of flatlining, then the balance isn't as easy because I got to be generating leads and pursuing people and speaking and all kinds of things. And so it's a little. I never work weekends, and I never work past 5, basically. Um, the catch, though, with all of that is I'm thinking quite a bit about the business, right?
Mhm.
And having conversations with my wife about it. So I feel like there's good balance and I have a lot of flexibility, but there is the big challenge that I have to overcome of making sure that I'm not consistent. I'm not constantly thinking about it and then stumbling into working on it because I'll pull out my laptop or something and start working on it.
What made you create Blue Shirt Leadership? What's the envision behind it, and what's the big mission statement for it?
Yeah, so my mission is to help thousands of business owners shift their mindsets and habits so that God can transform their hearts. And if someone isn't a Christian and that doesn't fit them, then it's all about helping them become the leaders they're meant to be, right? Because I'm not going to force my perspectives onto my clients. The blue is an acronym from a book that I wrote, and blue stands for be a self-aware leader, lead with accountability, use a growth mindset, and empower others. And those are the four pillars that I use to help coach my clients and help them become the leader they're meant to be, ultimately, right? And what I found is the heart of that is accountability. And that brings me all the way back to working with the guys in the men's mentoring program. That's what they needed. They didn't have it growing up, they didn't have it in their jobs, and they didn't have it within themselves. And so what they needed was to learn how to become accountable for themselves. And shockingly to me, this is what all the business owners I've ever worked with, that's the core of what they need. Now, it's not because they can't do their job well, or they don't have good ethics, or they don't follow through. It's none of that. It's just we get busy, and to use your previous question, we get out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're out of balance, then it's hard to stay accountable to what we intend to do, right? And so you combine that with all the head trash that business owners carry around and people carry around, all the limiting beliefs and the imposter syndromes and the negative emotions and all this stuff that we carry, it's easy to get off track. And so this is where my coaching comes in to help them rid themselves of all that head trash, all that limiting stuff, create the accountability so they can be self-accountable, and then press forward into this new place of freedom in their business and their life, because they've let go of all that limiting stuff, all those blocks and the head trash that gets in the way.
Are you someone that's the only person doing something similar with the concepts, or how do people find you and be able to say, I want to learn more from you because they're connecting to something that's passion to them?
Yeah. Well, one angle is the men of faith in business. So that's definitely a direct connection with me. The other is people that I'm known as Mr. Accountability, actually.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not. So that's what I'm known for. So people will come to me knowing that they're like not following through on things, or they're not as productive as they want to be, or they're not as motivated as they used to be. And this isn't because they're poor performers, or this isn't some rip on them. It's just a season.
Mm-hmm.
And so they come to me for the support to get through that. And then ultimately what they experience with me is the ridding, it's not the right word, the removal of the baggage that's holding them back. So I had a client, we were going through what I call a breakthrough session, and she was describing what it was like. And she described her situation like a hot air balloon. And she described it like the hot air balloon was grounded and it couldn't go anywhere because she was carrying so much weight of all the things in her life. The weight of her not believing she could reach out to the people she needed to reach out to grow her nonprofit. The belief that she still was struggling with this specific personal issue and that she couldn't let it go. These specific things related to some family stuff, these specific things related to employees that she just didn't believe she could overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And she's carrying that. And every one of those is 1,000-pound bag inside of this hot air balloon basket. And there's no way that it's going to lift off the ground. So that means she's not going to level up. Once I take my clients through these sessions, all that stuff goes away, and now they can rise up and get back to where they want to be and well beyond it as well.
What's the biggest thing running this business has taught you about yourself?
Interesting. I don't know if I've been asked that question before, so thank you for that. The biggest thing this business has taught me, what you believe about yourself is what's going to be projected out to the world. And so if I believe that I can't do a good job for you on your show, or if I believe that I can do a great job for you on your show, either will come true, depending on which one I'm into. Same thing with my clients. If I don't believe I can do a good job for them, if I don't believe I can make the sales, there's extreme power in what we believe about ourselves. And I think that's been the hugest lesson for me. And over time, I've been doing this for 6 years. Over time, the confidence has risen in the imposter, although I like the imposter. That's a different story. But anyway, the nervousness or the feeling fake has become something that isn't near as scary because I know that there's the lesson on the other side of it. But ultimately it is about what I believe about what I'm capable of fundamentally is going to define where the business goes.
You talked earlier about mountain biking has been something you enjoy doing in the Pacific Northwest. Is there anything else that you've enjoyed doing outdoors, maybe by the coast, or if you're near the coast, or what kind of activities have drawn you to enjoy being in the outdoors?
Yeah, for sure. So one of my favorite activities is actually CrossFit. So that's mostly
Oh,
indoors.
okay.
So, that's one of my favorites. But we hike often, not so far too much this year, only a few times so far this year, but hiking. We also will go cross country skiing and we'll do paddle boarding. So we'll go out and do cruises in the ocean, do the little, not cruises like the 10-day cruises, but just the little
Oh.
cruises around locally and do whale watching, that kind of stuff. We'll go camping. So lots of activity in the forest for sure.
Is there something that you haven't done yet that you're wanting to go, like that dream bucket list item, kind of?
Two, one, I want to surf again. I surfed in college a lot and I miss surfing, and it's hard to surf here. You have to go a long ways to do it. So I'd love to do that. Well, three, I want to get back into dirt biking because I used to dirt bike. So I'd love to do that. But you got to talk to my wife about that one. So we'll see. And then the last one is I want to skydive. I want to jump
Okay.
out of an airplane. So those would be I know you asked for one, but those are the three that I want to really go after.
I mean, I don't have no specifics. You don't have to be specific with what I ask. I like learning even more about the guests when they tell me more. With the surfing, where did you surf mostly? And was there an experience that kind of is memorable for you, like hitting a certain wave, trick, thing like that, or something completely opposite where it's kind of like sticks to your mind because of the what happened?
Yeah, so two stories. I surfed in Pismo quite a bit. So Pismo is in the center of the Central Valley or Central Coast of California, between LA and San Francisco, and huge, giant, long beach, a lot of space to surf. And so I surfed there, and one day it was like probably a 6 or 7 foot wave day, so pretty good sized waves. And I'd been out there for let's say 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and there was dolphins jumping
Ooh.
back behind us, and then they came into the waves where we were, and I remember hopping on one of the waves, and I'm goofy footed, so normally I face one direction, and then this time I was facing the other direction, so I really remember it clearly because it was just a unique situation. And I look down to my right and I see a dolphin in the wave that I'm riding.
Oh.
It was so cool. And it didn't actually come out. It didn't come out. It was like just in the wave, but it was riding with me, going alongside of me, and I'm just like fists in the air, going, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!" So that was a pretty powerful experience for me, just to ride a wave with a dolphin. So that was cool. And then there's another beach that's like 20 minutes from Pismo called Morro Bay. And in Morro Bay, it's a different beach. It's a different type of wave as well. I would say it's a little heavier wave.
Mhm.
And it was one of those days, it was a double overhead. So double overhead is at least 10 feet. This day was a 14-foot day. And I'm a fan of like 5 to 6 foot waves, but my friends are fans of those size and a little bigger as well. And so I went with them, not wanting to, but I went anyway. And I went out there, and I remember I was trying to get past the break, and I was really struggling to, and then I finally did, and I went to ride one of the huge waves, and the first thing I did was like start to feel the wave push me from behind, and then I tried to stand up on the board, and then I just fell, and I just tumbled down into the water, which is fine, not a big deal. But then there's a 14-foot wall of water falling on me, which is also not that huge of a deal, but I kind of got me tumbled around. And if have you ever surfed before?
I have not.
Okay, so if you want to imagine you're like a sock in a washing machine, where you're just like, or a
Mhm.
sock in a dryer, where you're just being tumbled around, but water is all over you the whole time. That's what was happening. And then I popped up, which is, this has happened thousands of times to me. So it wasn't really a big deal. But then here comes another 14-foot wave. And I'm in the wrong spot. Normally, you can kind of get it out from the break and you can get away from it. So it just basically within seconds crashes down on me, pushes me under. I'm getting tumbled around like a sock in a dryer again. And I don't know what's up from down. And I'm panicking, which is stupid. And so my surfboard's tied to my leg, but it's off somewhere, and I'm just confused, and I'm doing this trying to get up out of the water, and then finally I pop up, but I am panicked, hardly can breathe, and within like a half a second, another wave lands on me again. Same situation, less breath, more panic. I finally get up, and then I look, and there's another 14-foot wave getting ready to crash on me again. And I said, Jesus, help me. Like, I literally said that. And then I heard a voice say to me, because I was going to drown. Like, I was going to drown at that point because I was completely done. I had no breath. I was fully panicked, and I was going to get held under. I was going to suck in the water, and I was going to drown. Like that, without a doubt, that's what was going to happen. So I said that, and then I heard a voice say to me, turn around. I'm like, this is like, this quarter-second experience while this is all happening. And what I realized was I was trying to fight toward the wave to like duck dive it, where you go under the wave and then you don't have to deal with as much of the water. Well, the turnaround is basically you let it hit you and you don't go under, you just let it hit you and push you back out to the beach. And so you have to go under a little bit, but the whole time you're going forward. And so the beach is rising and the water level is changing. And so the likelihood of getting up and touching the ground is significantly higher, so you can know where you are. So anyway, I turn around, the wave crashes on me, it pushes me under a little bit, and I'm tumbled around again. But I know I'm going towards the beach, and I know that I'm going to be able to get up easy because I can quickly touch the ground. So I end up doing that, and then I lay on the beach for like 15 minutes trying to catch my breath, terrified of what happened. So I almost drowned. And then here's the crappy thing. I did it again.
Oh no.
So that time it was a quicker lesson. I only went under once and felt like I was going to drown. And I just turned around and I was like, I'm not going to ride these bigger waves. I'm just not skilled enough. So those were experiences, to say they were experiences. We'll just call them that.
Yes, after the first time, would you have thought like, I'm going to take a break from surfing for a while? But then you talked about you did it again, or you went surfing again, had a similar situation. But did that second time ever get you the idea of, I don't need to do this for a while? Like, I need to take a break, or you were
No,
like, no, I want to continue doing because it's something that you like doing.
no, I didn't. No, I had no desire to quit, and I didn't. I just surf smaller waves, stuck with the 4 to 7 foot range, and mostly the 4 to 5 foot range is like perfect for me. I'm not the extreme athlete. I love sports and I love activity, but I'm not that guy. It's just not. I'm just more cautious in my personality type. So I just was more cautious as a result. But I miss it like crazy still. Like I still, not every day by any means, but if I see videos of people doing it, I'm just like, oh man, I miss that. So
What do you see yourself as a goal for yourself, both personally and professionally?
yeah, the mission statement is the goal. It's thousands of business owners, helping them with their mindsets and habits. I've seen dozens and dozens now with that, where they've come to me with whatever their struggles are, and through the course of coaching, we've been able to eliminate them to the most part. Just eliminate those struggles, and new ones pop up, of course, but eliminate them. And now with this new training that I'm doing, this new program that I'm doing, it doesn't take months to do it. It takes 2 sessions to do it, and then we get to progress forward into what they want to achieve and not be held back. So professionally, that's what I want to do. Personally, I want my kids to be able to experience life as fully as they can, and ultimately discover what they want to do and embrace it as much as they possibly can. My mission for my kids is to help them to love learning and to love God. That's it. I want them to, if they have those 2 things, I'm not worried at all about my children. If those are in place, they're good. So giving them the opportunity to do both those things is my job as a result.
The final question I'll ask you, for someone that's listening to this interview based on your journey and experience, what tips or advice would you give them to overcome obstacles, accomplish their goals, and rise to the challenge?
Yeah, overcome obstacles, bring people with you. That, I mean, that answers the whole question, really. Just bring people with you, and the right people,
Yeah.
but bring people with you. I would 100% say that. And then secondly, I would say spend some time meditating and praying. You know, get to know yourself, and if you have a faith, if you believe in God, get to know Him as well. But in this world of social media and distraction, being with other people and being by yourself are two things people really aren't very good at right now. Being with other people means you don't, my phone is in front of me, but being with other people means you don't have your phone while you're interacting with people. I mean, how many of us have gone to restaurants where people are staring at their phone when they're on a date? Like, what are you doing?
Yep.
Or you're in your own home, and this is me. I'm in my own home looking at my phone when I should be interacting with my kids, right? So being with the people, that's, I would say those two things are absolutely vital.
Kyle, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your rise to the challenge. You're inspiring so many people, and we are excited to see what the future looks like for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Alex.
Tune in next time to hear my next guest talk about their rise to the challenge. Remember to follow and subscribe on all major audio platforms. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get full length episode in video format. What path do you take to accomplish your goals? You decide.